All righty, are going live. Going live. It's Sunday, even though it's Easter Sunday. We'll see who shows up to join me for this conversation. Easter 2024. Let's see what we got going here. Well, as usual, I'm going to start with a collective tarot reading, but as we get started, I may as well say, so what are we going to be talking about? If you follow me, if you got my newsletter, if you got the newsletter, then I told you that we're having class, right? We're going to talk about some things that have been going on. It's crazy out here. We're going to be talking about some things going on, especially as it relates to Black people, anti-Black sentiments, anti-Black legislation, anti-DEI. I mean, there is just an onslaught against, Black history and Black people right now. So anyway, I see some people have joined. Good, thank you, thank you. Say hello in the chat. Say hello in the chat. So we're going to talk about that, the anti-Black stuff that's going on. Also, since it is Easter, I wanted to talk about the women. If it wasn't for the women, you might have saw my short. I did a short. Today? I did a short about if it wasn't for the women, right? But first, and then we're going to talk about the evangelicals and the problem they have with they want to be president. The problem that the evangelical Christians have with their wannabe president, because he is, hi Donovan's Fun World. He is ruining their whole religion. He is ruining, y'all know who I'm talking about, the wannabe president, the one who wants to be president again is really hijacking the whole Christian religion. And if these evangelicals want to have any kind of moral high ground ever again, they're going to have to do something about him as their leader. Like, why? I don't even understand. Okay, but as I said, I am shuffling cards right now. I always do. This is your first time. I always do a collective tarot reading, to see what shows up. What are the energies? What are the energies? What are the energies with us? It always ends up being relevant too. I know y'all think, some of y'all be like, why do you do that? It always ends up relevant, I'm telling you. Okay. What am I picking over here? So, well, already it's relevant. So this is the Eight of Swords. And it means, if you can see that she has a blindfold on among these swords. Swords represent thoughts and ideas in the tarot, and the fact that she is bound with a scarf around her head. She's blindfolded, but look, she can get herself loose. She can get herself loose because the ties are loose. And the swords represent thoughts. So what are you unwilling to see that is in your environment, right? Followed by the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands represent actions, activities. So something that you don't want to look at that's coming right at you. Something you don't want to look at you. I mean, we don't want to look at that's coming right at us. Right? And it's a new thing. Look, there's offers. A Page of Wands means let's get this party started. Let's get this party started. A Page of Cups means I've got some goodies in here, some emotional kind of things going on, right? So already, like as I said, and I will be referring back to this as we go, because what are some things that we don't want to see that are coming right at us? A lot of times stuff is happening and we don't want to look at it. We don't want to look at it. But it's time to get started. It's trying to come. It's time. It's time. Right? And as I said, so this conversation today is about some things that are happening. I mean, the last couple of weeks have just been especially cray-cray. I mean, we live in times now where every day you wake up, you're like, Lord, what's going on? And, on the larger spiritual level, what's going on is we are undergoing a great shift. We are undergoing a great, really cosmic shift. Humanity is expanding. We are waking up, although it don't seem like it. We are waking up and we are expanding. We're going to be more than we've ever been. It's time for this next level of our consciousness expansion, which means there is sort of like this war in heaven. This war, people talk about that in a literal way. There's a war between forces that we might say are good and evil. And so what we see in our world today, and especially in our country, we see this deep divided this deep division in our country, and that we're fighting back and forth over, some people call it the culture wars, whatever, power. What's being fought over now is power. And one side feels like they should have it all and dominate other people. And the other side is fighting that and saying we need to all be respected and be free. What is really freedom? So if you have not already looked up the Project 2025, then I am going to suggest that you look at that. And again, I said today we're doing a teaching. So we're getting some Black history today, some American history, some Black history today. Who has heard of Project 2025? It is a conservative project. Just Google it and be horrified. Okay. It is a conservative project that when a Republican president gets back in office, it is a document that says what they intend to do and basically how they intend to restructure the government so that the office of the president, the executive branch, has more power than it has now. They want to do away with things like the Department of Education, the Department of Commerce. They want to limit women's agency over our own bodies, not just with, abortion, but also access to birth control. You heard what I said. Also access to birth control, and nobody should be surprised at that. I mean, I was saying this a long time ago, and they're, talking about reversing Roe v. Wade, and then it happened. I said, first of all, this is about white babies. Like, you have to understand the reversal of Roe v. Wade is about white babies because has been a decline in birth rates among white people worldwide. Obviously, in this country, they're not trying to have more Black and brown babies. So we know already that's what it was about. And I said then, this is not going to just be about abortion. This is going to also lead into access to birth control, because they're really trying to put women in a situation where you have to have babies. They already know what they're going to do with Black and brown people because they already have prisons and, there's ways of eliminating, shall we say. But, so anyway, look at Project 2025. Also, if you've never watched The Handmaid's Tale will tell you where we're heading. The Handmaid's Tale is a series on YouTube. On Hulu. Handmaid's Tale is also a book, famously a book that was remade into a series on Hulu. So Handmaid's Tale will tell you where we're going in this country with the Project 2025 and the homogenizing of the whole population. Like, everybody will have to be on one accord. Everybody will have to do what the powers that be say to do. And it's not a joke. We are really at an emergency. We're past the emergency, actually. We're really, because they're saying it out loud, right? The conservative leadership are saying it out loud. And they are coming against Black people in particular, right? So, here's where, this channel is called Dr. Darnise's House of Religion, Magic, and History. And so sometimes I really go with the history because of stuff that's happening. And so the history right now is repeating itself. So I got into I made a post on Facebook and someone asked me, yeah, but why is this happening now against Black people? Why is this anti-Blackness happening now? Has there been something that kind of triggered it? And I said, yeah, every time you have a rise in Black empowerment, you have a violent pushback. That's the history of America. When you have Black people who look like they're doing really well and taking on positions of power, like Barack Obama as president. Ever since he was president, we have seen an uptick in white supremacist actions in the streets, just boldly so, right? And so even though he's not president anymore, we see the result of a Black man having been in the highest position in the country. And this is connected to, if you're a history buff at all, to what happened at the time of Reconstruction after the Civil War, when Black people literally got free and Black people literally got political positions of political power. That's when the Klan emerged. That's when they began in Kentucky. I believe it was 1888, I want to say. Somebody could check me on the exact date, but right around what we call Reconstruction was when we had the so-called Knights of the Ku Klux Klan emerge with the idea that they were here to protect white womanhood and to keep order. I can't even make this stuff up. You can just look at it. The Knights, that's why they call themselves the Knights. They perceive that they are doing a job of protecting white womanhood and keeping order in the country. So at the time of Reconstruction, it was a pushback against Black empowerment. And now we see the same thing happening. After the rise of Barack Obama as president, you see this huge uptick, right, in white supremacist rhetoric and actions. So now, ever since 2020, when we had people responding to the murder of George Floyd, then you see another uptick, right? Because some white people were particularly angry because what happened when we had that, like the world paid attention. And in our country, we had many companies and schools say we're going to make sure that we're paying attention to diversity, equity, inclusion, right? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we saw companies and media all over talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you had a lot of conservative white people who were very threatened by that. And they saw it like, oh, Black people about to take over. Right. So then you can really just chart this historically. You can just see it and anticipate that that's what's coming down the pipe. You really can. It's such an old playbook, right? So it's no surprise, right? So now we're in an era, because those of us who are academics, many of us were asked in 2020, that summer of 2020 and into the fall, to come in and do these additional trainings. Y'all know I'm a college professor, right, teaching African American history and religion. Many of us were called in to, be in these, everything was on Zoom, right? So be in these Zoom meetings to teach white people about diversity, equity, inclusion, to talk to these institutions about how to do it, authentically. And so, my friends, we were like, look, we already know as Black scholars, we all better get what we can get, because this is going to last for 5 minutes and they're going to drop all these programs. And some of my friends in higher places than me, Black scholar friends of mine, they were being offered various positions in schools and universities. Now it's like, and some of them were like, I'm not going to take it because we know it's not really real. I said, well, maybe you take it, get that salary, do what you can do, with the understanding that this is probably only going to last a couple of years. And then, but position yourself to where, it works well for you, and see what good you can do in the couple of years you have. We already knew it. And so now we're in that moment of anti-DEI, right? Don't you see, like, who was it? The governor of Alabama. Where's my notebook? Did I write down her name? I don't think I did. The governor of Alabama just recently passed a bill in the state of Alabama that prohibits any DEI policies, I guess, in the state. Now, I have to ask you and everybody else, if you're anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion, what are you for? If you are anti-diversity, if you're anti-equity, If you're anti-inclusion, what are you for? This is what I mean by they're telling you exactly what they want. What does power look like? Power looks white. Who are supposed to be the people in power? White. That's the only way it looks legitimate to them. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You mean now I have to, I'm being forced, they'll say, I'm being forced to integrate. I mean, I don't, again, try it sometimes if you have this kind of conversation or you see it on the internet. Just try like, so you're anti-diversity, you're anti-inclusion, you're anti-equity. So there should be no equity in this country. Is that what you're saying? But we live at a time now where, what is this, 2024? So it didn't take that long, right? We saw this uptick in companies trying to diversify and be more inclusive. We saw that in 2020, right? Into 2021, they were all gung-ho about it. Now it's 2024 and doors are literally slamming in the faces of Black people. Like, no, we're not going to do any DEI. Nope. Right? We already know in the state of Florida, the governor of Florida, he had already said no DEI. He had already said, we are not going to have advanced, what was it? Like advanced African-American history in the state of Florida. So in Florida, he was just like, we're limiting what will be taught about African-American history. The governor of Florida, he's been saying that. Oh no, we're not going to teach about African-American history in the state of Florida. And then here come all the book bans. Oh no, we can't have books that talk about race. We can't have books that talk about, gender, sexuality. We can't have books that talk about anything, especially anything that's going to make our little white children feel uncomfortable. Right? So in that legislation from the Alabama governor, she said, if you go and look, you can Google these things, go and Google these things. This is your homework from Professor Martin today. Your homework is to look up Project 2025. It is to start watching Handmaid's Tale, several seasons of it, and to look up Governor of Alabama anti-DEI, because she said that there can be no teachings or no programs that cause anybody to feel bad or guilty on the basis of their race. Now, I got a question. Now, come in real close. Why you feel guilty? You see how they just tell on themselves. Somebody put something in the comments. What? You know, why you feel guilty? Imagine being so proud of your country. Imagine you feel so proud of your country that you're embarrassed for your grandchildren to know the history of it, because it's going to make them feel guilty. I can't make this up. We are at a time where anti-DEI says, I do not want my children or grandchildren to have to learn about the horrors of what I did before. And they got receipts, right? We got pictures. We have pictures from the 50s and the 60s of certain white people, shall we say, acting ugly towards Black people. And we have that footage. And so now their grandchildren, great-grandchildren can look them in the face and say, hey, grandma, hey, grandpa, what were you doing? But what were you doing? Imagine being so proud of your country that you're embarrassed for your grandchildren to know its history. That's what I have to say. And let me see what else. Did you see, this just happened in Tennessee. Tennessee State University, historically Black college university, has been taken over. The board has been vacated. The governor took over the school. The governor, you heard, the governor took over an HBCU. conservative white governor took over an HBCU and vacated the entire board of trustees, meaning they fired everybody. And now they're in the process of bringing people back in. They're like, okay, well, we're going to make sure it's all Black people once again. But when white people choose, y'all being very quiet. So somebody write something in here. I appreciate the thumbs up and everything, but y'all being very quiet because I'm hitting on these things that are happening like right now. These things that are anti-Black that are happening right now. We cannot hide. We cannot not know. We cannot be so caught up in Diddy madness. I was going to touch on Diddy, right? We cannot be so caught up in where Diddy is and all the Hollywood whatever that we miss something like Project 25, that we miss what happens to Tennessee State University, that we miss this pushback from the governor of Alabama, because if Alabama does it, these other conservative states are going to do it too. We can't afford that. We can't be. Now, some of y'all could probably tell, where is Diddy? That's a whole conversation, ain't it? It's a whole conversation. I can't even go on YouTube without being bombarded by Diddy stuff. And granted, we got to know about that too. But isn't it more important for us as a people to focus on the potential takeover, not potential, the actual takeover of an HBCU? Don't we need to be focused on that? And there's 2 state representatives in Tennessee who've been fighting a good fight. Y'all remember them? 2 young Black men, Justin, they're both named Justin. Justin Pearson, Justin, I think his name is Jones. And y'all remember because they got dismissed. When was this? Last year? Right? Because they were trying to talk about issues and they got thrown out of the courthouse, but they got their jobs back. But anyway, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, I'm pretty sure, in Tennessee. And yeah, so Barrett, while we're distracted, it's easy for them to stab us in the back. Exactly. This is why I'm saying this is so critical right now, Barrett. You see it. You see it. It's so critical. Yeah, we know where Diddy is out there doing whatever. And people have known for a long time. Different celebrities have been talking about Diddy and his crazy parties and don't go to a Diddy party. Like all of that, right? There's all kind of things. And that is the way that we always get distracted by some celebrity stuff. Because as a culture, I mean, as American culture, we've all become so hypnotized by celebrity culture, easily distracted that something like this can happen. And most people don't know. Like I'm going to go back in my class Tuesday. I tell you, I have Tuesday, Thursday teaching schedule. On Tuesday, when I go, and I already told them, they got to be paying attention to the news because, they're I don't even want to say it. I just say to them, don't be dead ass asleep, right? Wake up, wake all the way up. Gen Z, right? And I'm going to ask, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? And they were like, no. And I said, didn't I tell you? Okay. We like literally Tennessee State University, the board has been vacated. Everybody's fired. And again, like I said, okay, they want to put other Black people in there, but who are those Black people and who's choosing? Who's choosing who those Black people on the board are going to be? Ooh. Okay, also, I hope nobody bought a Bible. Y'all didn't buy no Bible from wannabe president, did you? All right, these Christian evangelicals, y'all, if you're an evangelical, you got to, again, what Barrett said, it's easy for them to stab us in the back when we're distracted. This man pretends to be a Christian. He pretends to be a faithful Christian. He has the worst record on morality, adultery, just you name it, being a criminal. He's got so many judgments against him. He owed $500 million. And these evangelicals keep accepting him as their Lord and Savior, you may as well say. They need a white savior. and they treat him like he is the Lord and Savior. So the evangelicals are in danger, really, of their entire religion being straight hijacked, because this man wants to use it for his political power grab, which goes hand in hand with Project 2025, because when you read it, you'll see that it is about the expansion of the executive branch. That means the president will have more power. And do not think that he's trying to leave after 4 years. He's not trying to leave after 4 years. He's going to try to stay. He already showed us he's going to try to stay. He admires Putin, and we know Putin just straight killed off his. Y'all, have you heard of Alexei Navalny? Alexei Navalny. See, in America, we just get too distracted by celebrity culture, and stuff is going on in the world right in front of our faces. As people say, they're playing in our faces. Alexei Navalny was a freedom fighter, a critic, a public critic of Putin. Putin doesn't deal with critics. He just gets rid of them. So Alexei Navalny was just unalived, right? And guess who admires him? The guy who wants to be president again thinks that Putin is great, right? You get to just do whatever you want. So they're playing in our faces. And for Black people in particular, again, for those of you coming in, this conversation is really about Black history, the anti-Blackness that's going on right now. When you see things bad all around in general, then particularly for Black people, it's going to be worse. And many of us just sleepwalk through it. So here again, we can laugh about it all we want, that he is out here selling Bibles for $60 during Easter season, no less. During Easter season, this man is out selling Bibles, American-themed Bibles. American-themed Bibles. The Great Stab in the Back. The 5-star review says, I don't know which thing that I say about the Great Stab in the Back. He is out here selling these $60 Bibles that are the American themed. They're going to come with a Constitution inside them. I don't even know. Remember, he was signing Bibles when he was president before? He was signing the Bible. Who even does that? Signing Bibles. Propaganda. Yes. Signing the Bible. Would it ever occur? I mean, the only way I can see like somebody writing in their Bible is like, you give it to a family member, give it to a baby, right? The baby got baptized. And so you write, to the baby from grandma or something like that. Anyway, back to the evangelicals. So, well, we're not so much evangelicals here for Easter. Let us contemplate this. If you saw my short that I did today, let us contemplate the Easter meditation I did real quick about the women in the story, the resurrection story. Now, some of you may be Christian, or maybe you were Christian, or whatever the flow is, but probably you were taken to church at Easter at some point. You know the story of the resurrection. You've watched a Jesus movie at some time in your life, and there's a thing called the resurrection. So in the Bible, we're told that there's a resurrection, right? Jesus is crucified, then he's, dead, and then he's in the tomb, and then who goes to the tomb? Who goes to the tomb first? Anybody y'all remember? Who was first at the tomb? That early Sunday morning, that early Easter morning. Who were the first witnesses to the resurrection event? Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. The scripture says Mary from Magdala is how it reads, and Mary, the other Mary. So Mary Magdalene and Mary, his mama, they go to the tomb because it's women's work to tend to dead bodies, right? There's a process, especially in Judaism. You got to wash the body, and they would put various herbs and whatever. They would tend, as a loving gesture, what you do for your deceased family members, you go and tend to the body, right, by his mother. And So the women were on the way to do women's work to the tomb, right? And they get to the tomb, Mary Magdalene and Mary, his mama, and they see an angel. And they see an angel, and the angel says he is risen. Why y'all looking for him here? Right? Little, smart mouth angel. Why y'all looking for him here? And so it's Mary Magdalene and Mary's mama who received this message. Now, if you're a Christian, this is really, really, really important because you have women who are the first witnesses, right? And conservative Christians have told women that women can't speak in the church. Women have to be, somewhere in the back. Women can't say anything. Women can't be pastors. Women can't do all this stuff. But the story says it's the women who first got word of the resurrection and then went and told people. So if you're an evangelical, what an evangelical means is that you share the story, right? You witness and you tell. So evangelical Christian, that's why they, proselytize. That's why they, want other people to come to the faith. They tell people about Jesus, share the good news of Jesus, because that's what you're supposed to do if you're a Christian. So who was the first one? Mary Magdalene and Mary, his mom. Also, at the cross. Remember, where was Jesus' best friend? Who was y'all remember who was Jesus' best friend? His ace boom. Who was Jesus' first best friend? Road dog. Anybody remember? Who was Jesus' best friend? Well, the beloved disciple, right, is the word they use. Who was the beloved disciple? Wait, evangelical support Trump. I know, Barrett. Yes, evangelical. It's a Judas. Pure Gold says it's a Judas. Well, Pure Gold, it depends on whose story. Like, message retracted. If you look at, where is it? I got a Gnostic text called the Gospel of Judas. If y'all want to look that up, it's called the Gospel of Judas, and it's an ancient text. And it does portray Judas as Jesus's best friend, who Jesus called upon to help him with this path he was about to walk. No, y'all done forgot about Peter. Y'all done forgot about Peter. Yes, Barrett, y'all done forgot about Peter. Remember the Last Supper? I haven't gotten to that part yet. The Last Supper. They're all, Jesus, we love you, right? And Jesus called them out right then. Nah, you don't love me, y'all. No, you don't. You're going to deny me 3 times. He said to Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. And there's, no, I would never. Right? And then this block was hot, wasn't it? The block was hot because everybody knew Jesus was out here speaking truth to power. Jesus was out here telling everybody, y'all are unfair, talking to the Roman government, right? The imperial oppressors. That's what Jesus was up to, calling out oppressors, calling out colonizers. That's what Jesus was doing. They would always say, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? So his people, the disciples, they all knew the block was hot. They knew one of these days we're going to get God, y'all. We're going to get God. His mother, I go deep. I'm a religion scholar, right? I got master's and PhD in religion, so I'm not making stuff up. And I read this stuff in the Greek. His mama, Mary, and his brothers and sisters, you heard, go to the house where Jesus was teaching one day, because they're like, Mother Mary's like, we got to go get your brother because he out here. We got to go out here, get your brother because he getting in trouble, right? And so they went, knocked on the door, and the refrain in the text is, one of the disciples goes to the door. opens the door, comes back and says to Jesus, Jesus, your mother and brothers and sisters are here. That's how we know there's a sister, because he says, Jesus, your mother and brothers and sister are here. And Jesus said, no, y'all are my family now, because they tried to bring me home and make me stop. The block was hot, right? And Peter was definitely, his close friend, his, like, yo, where we going? Who we fighting? Who we fighting? Peter was like that. Peter was known to have a bit of a temper. So Peter was like, who we fighting? Okay. But when push came to shove, Peter denied Jesus 3 times and took off running. Now, in some ways, we understand. We understand because the block was hot and people were getting crucified, okay? Because that's what the Romans did. They don't play around. You ain't got no trial coming, really. I mean, by the time you get a trial, it's already decided. And so Peter took off running. So who was remaining? My point being, in this Easter meditation, that's what this is. I'm asking y'all to meditate. Who remained? Who was at the cross and who was at the tomb? It was the women. And Mary Magdalene, you probably had already heard. If not, welcome to my channel. Mary Magdalene might have been his wife. But that is not in the traditional story. Well, we have all of these, references in other texts, right? In other gospels, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip. There are other extra biblical works out there, right? And have been from ancient times. And they reference this relationship between Mary, the Magdalene, right? Her Magdalene is not her last name. She was from a place called Magdala, right? So like people say Jesus of Nazareth, right? Mary of Magdala. And so they might have been a couple. So Jesus had his woman and his mother at the cross and at the tomb. The men folk had took off running. Now we could say, as I'm not here to shame men, right? We could say they figured we got to lay low because we know that we're going to get God. We just got to lay low for a bit. Because then they did come back. And Peter was, as a 5-star, you said, old sneaky Peter. Then he comes back and want to take over after Mary Magdalene comes back and says, he is risen. He's not at the tomb. He's not there. The angel of the Lord said he's gone. He's risen. Mary Magdalene is first. Now, Peter basically takes the story and runs with it like it was him all along. And we feel some kind of way. And so the conservatives have nerve to tell women that we cannot be active in the church. That's my meditation for y'all. And let me see, Barrett said back in a while back, wait, evangelicals support Trump. Yes, they do. That's why I said for them, it's such blasphemy. It's such, the man is selling you a Bible with his own stuff in it. They're excusing all of his sins. They're excusing his fall from grace. And they say, well, he's a flawed vessel. God is using him the way God used King David. King David was flawed. There are books out there that we don't know about. We have to research to find out the truth instead of being told. Let's read into, yeah. But right, there's lots of, you can look at a book. Where is this book? It's called The Other Bible, if you can find it. It is like a reference book, though. It is not like a separate Bible per se, but it is a compilation of many of Gnostic texts, right? So these works that I'm referring to are considered Gnostic. The word Gnostic in the Greek means wisdom, right? Gnosis is wisdom. So these are books from other people of the same period or shortly thereafter who had their version, right? There are lots of different scriptures, lots of different writings at the time, lots of them. That's why it was so important for Rome to finally come along. Yes, the Nag Hammadi. Oh, you do, right? The Book of Enoch is the one I know about exactly. Yes, the Book of Enoch. That's why it's so important for Constantine and the Romans to have the church, the newly formed church, to establish one basically universal Bible, because there were so many writings out in the world. In these little communities, right? We're talking about rural people, right? This community of Jewish people. We're talking about really small communities who used to gather together in, what was called the ecclesia, which is Greek for church, at the house. This was a church house, right? And share stories and read what they had, for whoever could read, right? Not everybody was even able to read. And so many different communities had their own works. And so Rome comes along at a certain point and says, nah, we got to standardize, right? So, some people feel like, oh, books were taken out of the Bible. It's not about books taken out. There was no Bible. It wasn't like there was a Bible dropped down out of the sky from God and then the Romans started taking books out. No, it was about what was decided that would become the Bible. The other Bible. Thank you, Michelle. Right. It was about, what are we going to put in this thing we call our standard Bible? We're going to leave out these other things that don't quite match our agenda, right? And if you get a Catholic Bible, they have more than Protestant Bibles. They have a lot of what's called intertestamental Gospels. It's not a secret. Like, people act like, oh my gosh, what are these secrets? It's not a secret. It's out here in front of our faces. But again, we get very distracted. We're easily distracted. I keep saying there's a great dumbing down that's happened in our culture because of these phones and these apps, and it's causing us all to have short attention span. People don't want to read a whole book. People don't want to watch long form video. Now everything's got to be 2 minutes or less, right? It's hard to watch a long form video. That means that we're losing the ability to learn. And as a teacher, let me tell you, if you have kids, if you have children or kids, young people in college, get with them. Do not assume that they know what they're doing. They do not. Please, as a teacher, let me tell you, micromanage your kid's life, right? Because they have to be able to read. Otherwise, all this distraction stuff will work. What was I going to say about? Oh, okay. You already said the other Bible contains the Nag Hammadi. That's where you get to read a lot of these things. Who is it too? I wanted to say, if you are interested in reading these kinds of things, if you can find a scholar by the name of Burton Mack. I'm pretty sure that's his name. He is a New Testament scholar, and he writes a lot about, what was really, or how things really came together, right? He's a reliable source, Burton Mack. He's a reliable source for taking a broader perspective of what we've been taught. And I'm sure there's videos on YouTube of him just giving lectures and stuff if you don't want to read it, but a lot of stuff. Who Wrote the New Testament is a very good one. Burton Mack's Who Wrote the New Testament. I'm looking over my bookshelf right now. I mean, I got so many that it's just ridiculous. James, the brother of Jesus, that's 1,000 pages. Just don't. They need to understand what they read. Sacred Cycle says, yeah. The Catholic Church in particular likes to kind of do away with Jesus's brothers and sisters. Nobody talks about his sister. We don't really know anything about her, just sister, right? We only got no name or nothing. But we do have a record of James the Just. They used to call him James the Just, because there's a lot of people named James, right? And we're really, there was no J in the alphabet, y'all. So in the Greek, then his name, Jesus' brother's name, would have been Jacobus or something similar to that. That's the Greek. And initially, back in the story when the block was hot, right, and Jesus was alive, and the disciples were like, well, what happens? This is how hot the block was. They would say to Jesus all the time, well, what happens if we can't find you? Or what happens if you get caught up by the popo? Right? What happens if they get you? What do we do? Right? Where do we go? How do we continue? What are we supposed to do if, they yank you up, bruh? He was like, go to my brother James. So all through the text, right, he's saying this, go to my brother James, go to my brother. He had to say my brother because there are so many other people named James. I say it that way because that's not what it was in Hebrew or Aramaic. So he was telling his crew, if I'm not here, if I'm gone, go to my brother James. He will know what to do. And that's what it ended up happening. They had to go to James. Now I'm writing this down just because all these names might get a little. James, Peter, and John. Right after the death of Jesus, what's happening? James, Peter, and John trying to hold it down. James was the leader of the Jewish, Jesus crew. This was the Jesus crew, the Jesus people, the Jewish people who had been following Jesus. This was them, right? James barely knew, why y'all even talking about this other stuff? Because along comes, y'all know, where are my good Christians? Did y'all go to church today? Did y'all have pork? I don't know why. Why do Christians have ham on Easter? Why do Christians have ham on Easter? Y'all know you can't have no swine. Elijah Muhammad done told you. Paul, he done wrote half the New Testament. He was the persecutor. Remember when he was Saul? Persecuting Christians. Then he has his great epiphany on the road to Tarsus. Saul becomes Paul on the road to Tarsus, right? He has his epiphany. He is struck blind for a while. And then he comes back, the greatest Christian. Now he's going to be a Christian. He has had a vision of the Christ, he says. I had a vision of the Christ, and now I'm a Christian. James, Peter, and John are like, who is you again? James didn't even really know. James was like, who are you? Because Peter was like I said, Peter was known to have a temper. Peter was known to just be hot under the collar. So he was fighting mad about Saul now becoming Paul and taking on, the role of, like he was in charge. And James was kind of like, who should I know who this is, Peter? Why you keep bringing up this Paul person? You know who it is. He been out here perpetrating. I get carried away with my storytelling. But I tell it this way to my students because they really don't know the Bible at all. And so if I put it in language that they can kind of understand, and they find it entertaining enough to pay attention and kind of follow along. But ultimately, James gets killed, right? So what Christianity really is Paul's Christianity. It is not the original teaching. It's not. It's Paul's version of things. Because Paul won out. Ironically, Paul wins out. The main people who had been Jesus's ace boon crew, all those people either had to flee or they got killed. Paul, because he was a Roman citizen, he was Jewish, but he was a Roman citizen. So he was able to change things up to make it easier for the Gentiles to enter into this belief system. No, you don't have to observe the dietary laws. No, you don't have to get circumcised. No, you don't have to follow all these laws. And Paul was like, let me make it okay for you. Okay, I'll make it okay. You can come into this belief system now. And he really just opened it up for the rest of the world. So, you might consider that a win if you're a Christian. Because of Paul, Christianity was sustained and could become a world religion because of Paul and then Constantine, the Roman emperor. Because it was really because of Rome that Christianity spread. It's just such a little movement. It would have died out eventually. It would have just died out because it was such a small group of people, little backwater town, Bethlehem, Nazareth. These places are just little, backwoods places. And who was Jesus? He was just almost nobody. Yeshua. So anyway, that's our Easter meditation. Comment over here, but you better pay your taxes. Remember, people saying rob Peter to pay Paul, and that's why we. That's kind of lost. I'm glad you brought that up, Sacred Cycle. Rob Peter to pay Paul, because that is kind of what happened with Christianity. Really, Sacred Cycles, you have said something very profound. Just took it right from Peter and gave it to Paul. But I know what you're saying too. Better pay your taxes because, well, even Jesus said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Meaning, don't get too, there's certain things you can deal with, certain things you can't, And we know in our day, if you don't pay your taxes, who was it recently? Well, y'all remember who was it? Wesley Snipes. Didn't he go to jail? He didn't pay his taxes. But more recently, who was it, y'all? Let's see if I can remember. Oh, Terrence Howard has a nearly $1 million judgment against him from the IRS. Something like $900,000 or whatever. Terrence Howard, did y'all hear about this? Now I'm celebrity gossip. Because you can't fight the IRS. I know there's people who say, well, we don't have to pay taxes. We shouldn't pay taxes. If you don't, you're going to prison. Or, they're going to take everything you have. And if you have something where they can get their money, okay, now you just be broke. But if you don't have anything, you are going to jail. And that is America, huh? What else I got over here in my notes? Ooh, it was so much going on. Y'all let me know what's on your mind. What y'all thinking about this week, including Diddy. Somebody tell me, where's Diddy right now? And the whole Hollywood scene. You know what I think is happening? Like I said earlier, humanity, we're up leveling, y'all. We're up leveling, believe it or not. It's time. Our consciousness is expanding and we're shifting into the new earth. We really are shifting. But right now there's this fight that's going on and we can see it. It's almost like in religion, in superhero stories, it's good versus evil. It's the good guys and the bad guys. It's like in Star Wars, the dark side and the Jedi Knights, right? Good versus evil. And that's what's being displayed right in front of us in a really intense way. Because at the end of this, what will resurrect is a new humanity. Like we are evolving. But this old way does have to die. So all this stuff that we're seeing, like all this, and by die, what I mean is old systems are falling. Old systems are crumbling, including our fascination with celebrity, because the thank you, 5-star review. The great mother is coming back. Thank you. Feminine energy is coming back. What we're seeing is it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? When they finally realize they pulled the curtain back and there's no real Oz. So we're seeing the crumbling of these old institutions so that we can, yes, re-engage with the age of Aquarius. So we can engage with the feminine energy now. It's time. We've been in such harsh masculine energy for a long time, and now it's time for the feminine to arise. Now, what we don't want to have happen is for it to be out of balance again with the feminine, right? It's got to balance. Y'all know I'm a Libra, so that's all about it. We got to balance it, right? And the feminine energy has to come back, but before we're there. And I should just slide this in because some of y'all know too that I'm a coach. I'm a life coach, and I work with spiritual entrepreneurs. Like I'm a writer. My book's back there. I'm a writer, professor, coach, right? And there are many of us who are spiritual teachers, spiritual healers. And we should have a bigger presence and voice. But a lot of times we're afraid of it, right? We're afraid of it because we don't want to seem, whatever out there. We don't really work our gifts as businesses. That's what I'm trying to say. If you are a spiritual teacher, healer, writer, whatever, the way that you can make a big impact on others is to get your message out more. And sometimes those of us who are spiritual like that want to shrink back from the worldly things. But I'm saying to you, if you're alive on the planet at this time as a spiritual light worker, it is imperative that you make yourself known, right? I mean, you already are from wherever you are on your point on the planet. And that might mean having a business structure so that you can, really prosper in it yourself. But yeah, balance with Leo. So all that to get back to say, like the Hollywood thing that we see crumbling in front of us, the whole celebrity thing, more and more stuff is coming out because as we see, all that glitters is not gold. And there's a lot of corruption underneath it, a lot of corruption and just abuse of power. That's why our light workers are so important. And I don't even really like the term light worker per se, because people get their ego attached to language and titles. Like, oh, I'm a star seed, I'm a this, I'm a that. Okay, but we don't need it. Well, let me speak for myself. I don't have to have that as a title. I just roll with it because I know I'm on the planet to do something, help raise the consciousness. Anybody else here for that? Anybody else here? Who else is here? Maybe you call yourself a light worker. And then I'm going to ask you, do you have some type of business structure? Are you doing it so people can find you? So when we're, getting bombarded with all of this information about Diddy and, R. Kelly, like whoever it is, doesn't even matter specifically who, like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and Prince Andrew, like all of these people is just to show like the foundation is corrupt and it must go. Right? That's the point. It's stacked upon the things that we have previously worshipped in a sort of a way as false idols. Now we are seeing the foundation is deeply flawed and corrupt. So now the foundation is just falling apart, crumbling every day. Every day we see some other aspect of it just crumble away. And a lot of us get really scared of it because, we don't know what's going on. And yeah, we are waiting for for what looks like the great mother coming back. Like, right, we need to see it more for us to feel more secure. Seems like this is the year of truth. Yes, Barrett, this is and isn't it like not just the reason I'm struggling is because I've heard that all year long, right? But when like on December 31st, when we're all thinking about New Year's Eve and thinking about, some of us do resolutions or whatever you do for the new year. We couldn't have seen it. That's what's always is slightly humorous. It's like, man, on December 31st, man, I wasn't thinking this was going to be what's revealed. Man, it's always something like in these last few years, I would say since 2016, if y'all remember when that man first came to the presidency in 2016. Not to say that America didn't have its corruption before that, but when he came to light, he's like the Antichrist himself. I don't know what to say. Like the foundations just started to be revealed rampantly. And we are looking at it every day like, wow. But that was 2016, y'all. And if you will remember, well, I remember things like this, maybe because I'm a historian. 2016 started off, January 2016, David Bowie died. April, Prince died. Y'all probably gonna think of a whole bunch more celebrities died. A whole bunch of celebrities died in 2016. But many of us were like, oh my God, David Bowie, oh my God, Prince. By the time we got to December, one of my nearest and dearest favorite. George Michael died Christmas Day 2016, y'all. Christmas Day 2016. And we had thought by the time we got to December, we're not going to take no more L's. We're not going to take no more L's. And then here come Christmas Day. Bam! And I was like, I'm just closing my computer, getting back into bed. I can't take it no more. And then we thought, okay, this is surely it. No, it wasn't. December, no, 2016 was like, remember, it was Carrie Fisher died right after him, before the new year hit. Carrie Fisher, 2016. And now, fast forward, here we are, 2024, and stuff is being revealed we could not even. So, Barrett, this is the year of truth, the great reveal. True enough. It's just we can't, and we don't know from what day to the next what it's going to be. Tomorrow they're going to be like, Diddy has been arrested. I mean, and again, it's not even so much about him. It's systems and institutions that have been corrupt for a long time. And in order for the Great Mother to make her reemergence, this other stuff has got to go. And do y'all know this book called When God Was a Woman? I think that's called When God Was a Woman. And it's about ancient religions that really worship the divine energy. If not, it's not literally a woman in the sky, right? Like they have done with an old man in the sky kind of thing, but like feminine energy and representations of the feminine. So if you're interested in that, When God Was a Woman, yeah, but the system is crumbling, and it has to. It really does have to. And especially if you have people who are older, like I would say over 70, 75, a lot of them are really freaked out. I know a lot of, older people, and they're really freaked out because the whole world that they knew is just no more. I know some old people, they don't want to leave the house. They're just terrified, and from their perspective, they just don't recognize this world. So and some people are trying to prey upon old people by trying to, scam them, different kinds of insurance fraud, all kinds of fraud coming at our seniors. Facts, love, caring, mercy, and justice. Yes, 5-star review. We're trying to get to that. The energies of our universe are shifting in such a way that we are going from a third dimensional type of reality through the fourth and fifth, right? And so in order to leave this third density, third dimension, we have to like literally shake off this stuff. It can't go, right? It can't go. Think of it like an old relationship, y'all. And if you didn't see my live from last week, go and look at my live from last week, because I talked about relationships being spiritual work. But when a relationship ends and you finally come to your senses, because you might be real hurt about it, you realize we were going a different direction. We can't go together. We can't continue life together anymore because for whatever reason, we've come apart. We've come apart. So me and this person, we're not on the journey together no more. And it's like that with how humanity is evolving now. We can't take this corruption. We can't take all this hate. We can't take all this dividedness. It can't go. Those attributes vibrate over 500 hertz. I remember people were mad when Andre 3000 came out with his flute album, but he's giving us 432 healing frequencies. And some people resist it. Some people are like, I'm trying to have a hip hop album. Well, things evolve, and our whole world is evolving now. So, yeah, sometimes 5-star review, you can't stay in a relationship after it's time, because if you do, it will only degrade further. People who stay in a relationship too long, people become angry and bitter and resentful. You might have abuse. You might, escalate to physical abuse. When it's time to go, it's time to go. right? And if you won't, the universe will give you a tower. People hate to get this tower card, but you know what? Sometimes you need a tower. You see, it's no way out other than these windows to get thrown out of. The universe will give you a tower moment. What do you think about the solar eclipse on April 8th? Andre has evolved and he's trying to tell us something. The solar eclipse. We'll say more about it, Barrett, because we just had and Andre has evolved. Oh, yeah, and Andre is trying to tell us something. Yeah, so the solar eclipse for April 8th, at this point, everything is about the leveling up. Everything is about the expansion. So these astrological and even astronomical, like astronomy, our whole universe, how many universes are there, right? Everything is shifting its frequency. That's what I'm trying to say. Everything is shifting in frequency now. So it's, you've heard the expression, as above, so below, as within, so without, as above into the cosmos, so below. Everything, so certain things are getting eclipsed out. If it's a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse is going to end up showing something. I'm almost scared. Absolutely, we have to tap in. I'm excited. We can almost be afraid of a solar eclipse because something is going to be illuminated after the, right? But then after that, something is going to be illuminated. God only knows. Gird up your loins, like they used to say in the Bible. So anyway, I want to appreciate y'all coming on here with me. Tap in, let me know who's on my list, because there's some people on here who I don't think I've seen before. And the people who are normally here are not here. I think they're probably doing Easter things. So if you're on my newsletter list, let me know that you're on the list. Or if you want to be on the newsletter list, I have to put that in the description box. It means that you sign up to get my Black History reading list. I've created a Black History reading list, last year, maybe last summer. And so anyway, if you sign up for my newsletter list, you get the Black Studies reading list. You just get access to that I put together because I want you to give that stuff to your children. I mean, I have like a list for children and for the rest of us. Yeah, I need to sign up. Okay, well, the link will be in the description box, Barrett. Please do join us. I have Patreon also. For those who want to support the channel, I have Patreon, so that's always helpful. That link is in the right after this video, right after the live. You'll be able to come back and see the link to the Patreon and the link to join the mailing list. I just send out about once a week a reminder of the live stream, but on occasion I do send other stuff out, because sometimes people reach out and they want a consult of some kind, and so I give people an opportunity to like hit reply if you want a consultation about various things. Some of this candle working, some of the candle work. And I always say, always keep an orange candle going, y'all. Remove the blocks, open up the, right? And keep your ancestors well tended. Tend to your ancestors. All right. On that note, I'm going to go. And I want to appreciate y'all for taking time to be here with me. Thanks for being here with me. Thanks for hanging out. And I am here most Sundays. And that's too, but when you find out. I'm here most Sundays, at least twice a month, but definitely at least, but okay. 3 times a month, 3 Sundays, but definitely 2 Sundays. And so that's why I let my list know, hey, I'm going live today. So come through. All right. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. Yeah. All right. Bye for now. What size orange candle? Oh, she threw that in there right quick. Any size. Although I will say if you only have the little ones, like the little taper, depends on what you're trying to do. So if you know, candle magic is real quick. So if you're working on something that you really want to do, you really want to see a result, you only have the small ones and you're going to have to do it like every day, you know, for a while. But if you get one of the big, yes, Rich, we get a big glass candle and that'll last you several days. Um, Work with your ancestors, right? White candle, glass of water on your ancestor altar. You might want to read a passage from the Bible or whatever you're working with. Read a passage where you invite in God, you know, Holy Spirit, divine help, right? Whatever you're working with. Some people don't resonate with Jesus. So, whoever, an angel, you can always ask Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael to come on in. Rahel, I work with the, I can write at the same time. I work with the Shem angel Rahel, right? I work with the Shem angel Rahel for fortune and inheritance, like expanding your territory. Ask Rahel to help you expand your territory. Yeah, orange candle, white candle will always do ya. Green if you want some money, but orange and white will always do ya. Yeah, keep the on your altar, keep your white candle going and some at least some water. All right, I'm going now for real. It's like at the end of class and people have questions. But all right, I'm going for real. Thank you. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Bye.